Hey, my name is Tim Sae Koo, a recovering Type A and aspiring Type B heart-led leader. After selling my first tech startup in Silicon Valley due to personal misalignment in 2018, I am now backpacking around the world for a year with the intentions of healing myself, recharging my battery, and seeking what problem pains my heart to see exist. I'm here to take you on my journey, to stay in touch with you all, and share my learnings to open up new gateways of inspiration and awareness.
Greetings from beautiful San Marcos in Atitlan in Guatemala. I really wanted to film this near the lake, which I am at right now, but couldn't find the best place to put this camera, so found this position and we'll give it a go. But also wanted to preface by saying that today's energy level will be a little bit calmer because I am just finishing off and recovered from a 4-day stomach bug stint. Didn't see that one coming. So I really wanted to split this week's sharing into two main categories. One, the events and activities I went through, and two, the reflections that I spent time on. I didn't go too much into San Marcos last video, but the best way I could describe San Marcos out of all the other towns around this lake is that it's sort of this like adult playground slash Disneyland for conscious-minded events. And that's because the programming and events is off the charts. Just every day you will be offered all these events, workshops, classes that cater to whatever need that you're seeking. And this can be ranging from the traditional yoga and meditation, but to lucid dreaming, astral projections, cacao ceremonies, ecstatic dances, aerial yoga, just so on and so forth. And so really it's just such a beautiful opportunity to immerse yourself in all these types of modalities when you're here in San Marcos. There's just so much alignment in the people that's around here, the community, and the types of events that they foster. And so the biggest question I had was like, how do I choose? And one of the biggest things that came back to me was like, well, let's not stress about this and turn this into a game. I would go to an event if two things happened. One or multiple people told me about these events and that I should absolutely go. Or number two, I would walk up to the daily community board in the morning, look at the list that was offered, and whatever my heart jumped with joy by reading, I would make it. As I ventured into all these different events, obviously I wanted to get to know the teachers and the facilitators, and one thing I learned was that most of them are actually expats and foreigners who are traveling throughout Central America, stopping by Lake Atitlan and offering their skill sets and what they know to the surrounding community. So what did I do? Well, firstly, I went to this thing called a bobinsana plus handpan ceremony. Now, bobinsana is a type of tea from the Peruvian jungle that is a really gentle heart opener, non-psychedelic induced, and you would mix that with the facilitator serenading you with her handpan playing. And for those who do not know what a handpan is, it's a steel drum that has around 10 different notes that are all in harmony with each other. So what we did was we drank the bobinsana tea and meditated, and then the facilitator would then proceed to play her handpan for the next hour and a half. And we were just instructed to lie down and enjoy. The second thing I decided to really explore this past week, which was more accidental but very serendipitous, is just supporting other local entrepreneurs that are living around the area. I started noticing local entrepreneurs hustling and doing what they do, and I just asked them about their story and then share my story, and they would ask for some advice and support, and I would offer them time to sit down over tea and just learn exactly what they're having challenges with and pass down as much wisdom and knowledge from the scars that I've obtained from my previous journey in tint to them. See, my mission is to really be of selfless service And what I've learned is that I really enjoy working with other intentional, conscious-minded, aspiring change makers. And one of these observations I picked up was that these local entrepreneurs really just want to start something that will sustain a simple lifestyle that they can have here, and at the same time support other locals in the surrounding community. And I personally resonated a lot with that, which got me more excited to really support them. The third thing I experienced was something called aerial yoga. I've never experienced it before, but under that game of someone telling me to try this out, I decided to follow this stranger's advice and try out aerial yoga for the first time. And it was just such a fun little activity where you can really be your inner child again and practice yoga stretches on these silk that you hang on top of the ceiling. You just try different stretches and overlooking the beautiful Lake Atitlan. The fourth activity I experienced was 2 more ecstatic dances at this place called Eagle's Nest. I've been hearing about Eagle's Nest a lot from friends, so I decided to really combine these ecstatic dances and visit Eagle's Nest. And boy, was it a trek to get up there, but it is a phenomenal 360 view of the lake on the top of the mountains with just such good tribal electronic beats playing in the background with such smiling faces of people dancing and expressing themselves fully. The fifth activity I spent my week on was hiking up this trek called Indian's Nose here in Lake Atitlan. And it does require a 4 a.m. wake up to go get to the base and then start hiking up to the peak, which takes about 30 minutes to 45 minutes, and sit there for an hour and wait for the sunrise. But when it happens, wow, you get to see this lake on the bottom start to have color, and the sky turn from dark black to a light mystic blue mixed with some orange and yellow paint, and you just kind of take some deep breaths in and so enjoy that scenery. So the lake closed on me, and now I'm finishing the rest of the video here. When I wasn't spending my time enjoying all these activities around San Marcos, I was spending a lot of time reflecting and journaling. So there are 5 things that I really was able to reflect on and really learn and enjoy this past week. Number 1, the act of rehearsing who you're going to be lays down the circuits of a new personality. And this new personality is connected to a new personal reality. And what this means is that I started rereading my 10-year vision letter from my 10-year from now self to myself right now almost every morning this past week. And I was inspired to do so because Dr. Joe Dispenza mentioned that quote, that the more we rehearse who we want to be in our mind, because our mind and brain does not know the difference between something happening externally and something happening internally inside our mind. The more we can rehearse this, the more our brain starts to reconfigure. And when that starts to happen, we come up with a new personality, which leads to a new personal reality. And as I read this over and over this past week, it started to really allow me to have clarity in the decisions I make, how I spend my time, who I hang out with, etc., etc. To the point where there was a moment where this flyer for this DJ training in Portugal popped up in my life. And because I was aware and listening and knew that it was actually one of the hobbies I wrote down that I really wanted to be proficient or master in 10 years from now, I decided to listen to the call and apply for the DJ training. The second reflection was this quote: when you can tell your story and it doesn't make you cry or change your breath, that's when you have truly healed. And true forgiveness is when you can say thank you to that person, yourself, or that experience. And as you may know, the reason I really reflected on that was because part of my intention this year is to really heal internal wounds. So I took this quote and forgiveness and really narrowed it down to one part that I really want to process and I really want to heal from, which is my previous professional life. And so what I did was I wrote a letter titled "Thank You, Tint," really sharing the gratitude, even though it was insanely difficult mentally and physically on myself from this previous career, just sharing all my thankfulness and gratitude for all that has appeared. Everything from new skill sets to new perspectives, new mindsets, financial freedom, ability to have the time and space to really learn about myself, traverse the world, immerse in the beauty, just all of that, really being aware of how grateful I could and should be for what Tint has provided me, though it was challenging. And what that taught me was that gratitude is the antidote to start to heal these wounds that we may or may not be aware of. And shifting that perspective from this is something bad and labeling that to really appreciating the beauty that's hidden beneath with all the lessons and gold that is buried beneath, and we just need to dig it out. And the third one was really related to the stomach bug I mentioned in the beginning of this video. You know, what came to me during that time was this doubt of like, what am I doing? I miss my friends and my family. And yeah, just why am I even here? What's the point of doing all this? And I caught myself in this loop of, you know, this quote of the grass is greener on the other side. And I remember reading this one time where the grass isn't greener on the other side. The grass is greener where you water it. And I'm choosing to water it in myself this year by really taking time and creating the space to go explore the world and learn about myself and really just immerse in all the beauty to be inspired for what comes next. But it was just such a great experience to go through in having that challenge, doubting myself as people told me it would happen, and really reconquering that mindset to know that I'm watering the part inside myself to make it flourish and grow and blossom. The fourth one is really surrendering to what happens, especially in an environment and a city and a town that is still developing. You never know what Mother Nature will present itself in this town, but one day there was extremely strong winds, and before we knew it, there was a small fire on the top of the mountain, and because of the winds continually blowing, started to exacerbate it and really just create this huge flame that all of a sudden knocked out half the town's electricity, at which time I was like, uh-oh, I don't have any more cash. I might need to go to the ATM to withdraw some cash. If I don't, then you know, I have no access to food and no one really takes cards here, so what do I do? And instead of worrying, I was just like, let's just surrender and know that we'll try to ask for support afterwards as well. And that really leads to the fifth and final reflection, which is tribe. These type of conscious developing towns really thrive on this one word, tribe. And what tribe means to me is really be able to support and ask for support in flourishing your life in a certain environment. And I was reading this book last year called Tribe, where they were mentioning that, you know, in this time and age, we have made it so easy for ourselves to not have a tribe. And thanks to the advancement of technology and the social media networks out there, it's almost like we don't need a physical connection tribe because we're all digitally connected. You know, all human beings crave some sort of connection and belonging. And maybe that could be in the technology world, but my belief is really that that connection and belonging is felt in a physical contact, in a physical experience. Technology should be really positioned as a tool and not a replacement to connection. So that was it for this week. Lots of activities to explore and just enjoy. As well, a lot of beautiful, inspirational, introspective reflections and learnings for myself. For this week's Ask, what kind of work and type of people to work with absolutely makes you come alive? feel free to put in the comments below. So stay tuned for next week as I continue to stay in San Marcos for the last week and still continue to share all these amazing events, workshops. I am so looking forward to continually passing these wisdoms that I am able to receive to you and inspire you to possibly do something like this of your own. But as always, so appreciative, so thankful, so grateful for your time in sharing and watching. See you next week.